What is the future of business coaching? Where are we headed? What's going to happen? That's what we're going to discuss on this episode of the Business Coaching Success Podcast. Let's jump in. BJ O'Neill here with the Business Coaching Success Podcast. So glad you're here, where I share with you strategies, tools, and tips to be able to grow your business coaching practice to six figures and beyond as a Christian business coach. Let's jump in. Welcome. Glad that you are here. We are talking about the future of business coaching. If you are considering jumping into the business coaching game, or maybe you've started in the last year or so, maybe you started a few years ago, but you're wondering, where are we headed? What's going to happen? What do things look like? What are the forecasts? And while no one can ultimately predict, but we have pretty good indications now based upon history, based upon what's happening right now, and technology and things that are coming out that's pointing us in to a direction to give us some good indications. I'm going to share some stats with you. I'm going to share some content and context with you just to give you some things to consider. So in order to be able to forecast, in order to be able to look at the future and to what's happening, what's possible, what's on the horizon, you do have to examine and take a look at, well, what's historically, what have things looked like? This is exactly how financial forecasts are looked at. This is exactly how the weather is forecasted, and so on. And so when we take a look at just the last couple of decades, it wasn't really always called business coaching. It was simply helping others to succeed. And a lot of it was done very loosely. Now, I'm not referring so much to the consultative world at the Fortune 500 level, but I am referring to, businesses that fall between, $500,000 in annual revenue, certainly up to, 25, even to 50 million in annual revenue. People ask all the time, what's the sweet spot? I don't know if there is a sweet spot. I can tell you though, that 90 plus businesses fall between $500,000 and 2 million in annual revenue. That's the dry cleaners, that's the restaurant, the pizza chain, that's the nail salon, the hair salon, that's the pest control company, the HVAC company, the roofing company. The list goes on and on and on. When you get in your car and you drive down the road and you see all these businesses, that's them. Well, the majority of them make between that range. The average profit margin in America is about 10%, which is not fantastic. And the only way that you can really, have a thriving business, one where you can hire better, one where you can retain employees, especially the best ones, longer, continue to have customers come back to you rather than dispersing them to competitors, is to increase profits. Now, as believers, as Christ followers, those business owners who really see mission and purpose inside the business, where there is no margin, there is no mission, right? And so there has to be an evolution of consistency over time. And so as we were working with those types of businesses, 20 years ago, it was done very different. We didn't have resources. There was no Zoom, right? There was no video technology. There was no YouTube, those types of things. So you just kind of swatted at things more than anything. Or if a business owner, which is what I was, if a business owner helped another business and they paid for them, they typically would just emulate what they did, which is nothing wrong with that, but it just left a lot to be desired. It left a lot of opportunity on the table. And so you really kind of crashed through a lot more than not, simply by learning from failing. And while there's nothing wrong with that, and there's certainly, there's elements of, working through processes, that didn't work, let's adjust. You really have to shift away from the failing model to a testing model. And testing needs to be foundational based upon there's some meat, some context, and so on. But over the 20 years or so, business has also changed as well. When you look at the amount of franchises that are available today compared to what was a couple of decades ago, it's not in the same hemisphere. And I don't know the numbers. I didn't research those numbers. But people are buying those businesses all the time. And that doesn't mean that they understand how to grow the financials of the business. In other words, the profits and the revenues. And so we found ourselves in a conundrum of like, okay, how do we help these businesses actually grow the profits? So many coaches back in the day just focused on marketing. Marketing is important, but when you don't understand the P&L, when you don't understand, what's driving results, what's driving growth, what's driving causality. The very first couple of businesses that I had 30 years ago, there was no way in the world I could tell you why we did better this time of the year than that time of the year. We just did not retain data. There wasn't really systems and tools to retain data. There was for the Fortune 500 world and those that were on the stock exchange and whatnot, but certainly not those that fell below 20 million in annual revenue and so on. And so there was a lot of many years of just kind of what I call professionally winging it, right? In other words, it was just we just kind of made it work. But as times had advanced, right, the margins shrunk, and the need for speed in getting from zero to growth began to change, and we just could not any longer retain the idea that we can just kind of haphazardly make this thing work. Okay, so that's kind of where we've been over the last 20 years. We found us in this spot to where over the last, we'll call it 5, as technology has advanced, as tools have advanced, it is pushing the nerve of what's needed right now and certainly where we're headed for the future. So currently in 2024, between all the different studies that are out there kind of squished together, the business coaching industry will see about $14.2 billion in revenue in this year, which is amazing, right? It's forecasted that will hit about $27 billion by 2032. I want you to think about that. That's a substantial increase in just a few short years. Why? 2 big reasons. One, well, there's more reasons, but 2 big ones. One is that the average business owner is beginning to be very clever and understanding that I don't know all of this, I need help. That's a big one. Pair that over the next, call it the rest of this decade, so the next 4.5 years, 5 years, is that you have an incredible amount of boomers that are retiring, that own businesses, and that business, that sell of that business is not valuated where they want it to be. They go get the valuation, they get the business broker valuation, and it's just simply not at the level that they thought that it was going to be. They have 2 choices to make. They either fire sell it, actually they have 3. They have fire sell it, they shut it down, or they retain the help of someone to improve the profitability. That third choice will be the biggest choice because it is their retirement. They can't just shut it down because they won't have anything to sustain retirement. Number 2, if they fire sell it, that's not going to work either. That's not enough to retain them throughout their retirement years. And again, retirement isn't the only reason. It's going to be a big one, though, that's going to propel everything. So what's this mean? It means there is opportunity. If you are considering coaching, if you're just starting, this is great news. All right, it's great news for you, but it doesn't mean it's going to be simple. And it doesn't mean it's just going to find you, right? It is going to increase. And as they say, everything rises with the tide. I don't know that it's 100% accurate. I think in theory, it's accurate. Those who are ready, those who prime the pump today are the ones who's going to get opportunity. So here's a few things that we need to consider in order to understand how can I take a chunk, how can I take a sliver of this pie and make this a living for myself, whether it's something that I'm doing, in addition to owning a business or working full-time or whatever, if you can make that work, or if I'm going to be straight up full-time into this and I want to earn, super well, in whether it's $100 grand, $200 grand, $300 grand, that's obviously up to you. So for context, when you look at the average coach charges around $2,000 a month for one-on-one coaching. There's more than one-on-one coaching. There's group coaching. There's different ways to tier it up with the levels of how you can go deeper with an individual. There is, full day coaching sessions where you're going to get really granular. Some guys charge $10,000 and $20,000, but for context, we'll use just the standard one-on-one monthly coaching. The average coach charges $2 grand. So it's a math equation. You get 5 clients, it's 120 grand a year, right? You charge more, it's going to be more. You have more clients, it's going to be more, and so on. So that's a starting point that we want to understand. So in order to do that and more, what do I need to be paying attention to for the future of business coaching. Number one, and these aren't necessarily in order, but technology, unquestionable. Those coaches who refuse to learn technology will get hurt. They will not see a share of their pie, and it might even knock them out. Why? Because the vast majority will embrace technology. And we're not talking about embracing technology. Now, I'll give you some examples. We're not talking about embracing technology just for fun and for cutesies. We're doing it for growth. So, for instance, software. There's already a lot of it out there, right? But it's still very, very new. And we talk about software and utilizing the software to grow our coaching businesses. Some of that software is going to be used to help the business owner and the business grow. Just going to depend. What do I mean? Well, take a look at things right now. Canva. You maybe have heard of Canva. Faster than ever before. Even if you're not that creative, you can take a tool like Canva and create social media posts. You can create banners. You can create your YouTube channel banner. Like the list goes on and on. I might argue that you want somebody else to do it, but the point is now there's software available to do that. Imagine what it's going to be in 5 years from now. Tools like that and things like it, right? Software to be able to predict and to show revenue opportunities. Software to be able to highlight the efficiency load of a process of what a business is going through. When you go and you sit down and you show them this process of where they're hurting or what their upside is, you are absolutely leveraging technology in that manner. AI, and I know it's controversial, and I get it, I understand that, but it is what it is. It's like everything else that's ever been created on the planet. There's always an opportunity to be used for good, and there's always an opportunity to be used for not good, right? Well, clearly we're in the bucket of the for good, so let's focus on that. It's using tools from a basic level to an advanced level. It can be used to help you create, business proposals. It can be used to be able to help create an entire business plan for your clients. It can help you create drip campaigns as you've got prospects on your list, ideas, podcast episodes, like give me 10 ways that I want to, do X, Y, and Z. Give me the structure of the podcast episode, video trainings. If you're going to host in-person events or virtual events, AI can be used to help you create those ideas, build those contexts around them, and then some. It's going to help you to be able to analyze not only the past, but also the future. So as it stands in September 2024, if you're not familiar, Meta now has their version of AI. It's free. You can go to meta.ai, and it now also utilizes real-time data, where some of the other AI tools don't do that. Imagine what it's going to be like in the future to be able to utilize, okay, here's a business that's in this line doing this amount of revenue, this kind of profit. What are the 5 strategies that we need to kind of evaluate in today's world to get another 10 to 15%? That's coming. It's already being worked on right now, utilizing those types of tools, which goes into the next thing, tools in general. Tools cannot make the deal. Tools not going to build the relationship. Tools are not going to replace the human, but tools can be used by us to be able to show opportunity, to be able to help someone who may not have any context or any logic behind what type of strategy they should be using in building their business. But when you have the tool to be able to do it, that's where things can change. Lots of types of tools. Now, I will tell you that you can get distracted right now with them, and we don't want to do that. But we do want to pay attention to the tools that are available, and they get introduced all the time. Right now, I utilize now in coaching our team on a consistent basis. I use a product called Typeset, and it's just a fast way to build presentations. All right, so tools like that are going to continue to advance, and they're going to make it simple for you to spend time to get your thoughts together, to get your ideas together, to get your presentation together. If you're doing a one-on-one coaching session, if you've got a group of people in the room, or if you're doing a full-blown speech, a talk, as a speaker, as a coach, lots of different ways that can happen. Analytics. Now, if you've never been and analytics are not new, and analytics have been around forever, but they've not been well adopted by those businesses that fall underneath 5 million in revenue. However, that is changing, and that will be the future for a coach. So the coach can go in and with analytics show where a business currently is, what they need to work on, and what's possible for the future is going to have the opportunity to win. And remember, you've got business owners now that are in we'll call it their mid-30s. As they age over the next decade, they're going to get smarter, they're going to get wiser, and they are going to be well open-minded with technology. So the coach that comes in with resources, with tools, and with technology at their side to show them what's possible, things are going to change. Think about it like this when it comes to the technology side. You may not be a NASCAR fan or not. We're kind of in the middle. We were years ago a lot more than we are now. We kind of pay attention to it a little bit. I still think it's kind of fun to go to a race or two just for the fun of it. But more than ever before, you've got race teams that are spending millions and millions and millions to analyze everything, aerodynamics, the tires, the RPMs, the power, and they're just looking for one more miles per hour in addition. Why? Because that literally can mean the difference between winning the race and losing the race. And it's so important to understand that. We want to take that same level of concept to the business coaching world and understand that when we have that kind of open-mindedness and we can get just a little percentage here, a little percentage there, that gives us the opportunity to get another client here, another client there, charge more for our work, help them further, help them to gain what they're missing, and so on. Hybrid coaching. Hybrid coaching is super important to understand. You may say, well, what do you mean hybrid coaching? Well, back in the day, all we had was in person. That's all there was to be able to do. Simply was to look at a in-person model that I physically have to get into a car. I physically have to go somewhere to sit down with them, and that's the same thing for any outside sales rep, right? Is that there's a lot of time in that. Now, look, God created you and I, and there's nothing will ever replace in-person human interaction, shaking a hand, being someone there in their presence. It's just not always practical, right? So hybrid means I'm going to do a lot of this from a virtual perspective on Zoom, which is very normal today. If there's anything that I don't know if anything good came out of COVID, but one thing that did come out of COVID is that business owners certainly adopted video technology and communications a lot faster than they were prior to COVID. So that means that we can spend 75% of our time virtually, but we still want to have some type of in-person reach, right? Now, not always practical for if you're coaching someone not in your city, not in your state, right? But even at that, if it's the right fit, I would make the argument to get on a plane and still physically go see them if you can. They're not always practical, but hybrid means I'm not just going to think about this from a virtual perspective, because those that can adopt the hybrid version, they're going to build a deeper relationship with their client simply because I'm going to be able to go break bread with them, spend time with them, could be coffee, whatever. So even if you're coaching someone local, I'm still going to make the argument to mitigate time. We're going to do a lot of it virtually. I may plan quarterly or maybe once a month or 4 times a year, whatever, but it's just quarterly, is that I'm going to see them physically to deepen the relationship, okay? And then the last, it's the coach that embraces processes and systems, period. That by far alone is the future of coaching. Those who are winging it, those who don't have the right tools, those who don't have a systematic structure that literally shows them how to go to A, B, C, D, E, and so on, those are the ones that are going to succeed, because it's going to get harder and harder and harder, and people are going to get more advanced, they're going to get more sophisticated, they're going to get more intuitive, and they're going to recognize those who don't have process and structure and those who do, and they're going to avoid people who don't, and they're going to adopt to people who do, because people want a plan. People meaning business owners. They want a roadmap. They want to know that I'm headed somewhere with someone who has a mapped out process, that we're not just session to session, month to month, quarter to quarter. We don't really know where we're going. We're just talking a lot. Those who do that are going to struggle. So you need a process, you need some structure, and you need systems. So you're hearing all this and you're like, okay, that's the future of it. What does that mean for me? It means that you need to get open-minded to putting all this stuff together over the coming years and adopting into it. You may say, BJ, I'm in my 50s and I'm just not a technology person, whatever. I get that. And I'm not saying that you got to become super techie, but you need to get open-minded. You need to start to adapt. BJ, I'm not familiar with dashboards. You can, LinkedIn Learning has all kinds of different learning elements to learn tools that are dashboard driven, to understand analytics, to understand the power of them, what they can do. Get open-minded. Do not, if you're coaching today, what you're doing today is going to shift. If you don't have an open mind to the shift, I'm not going to say it's going to just change overnight, but it's going to have adoptions to it. You want to be an adopter, not necessarily an early adopter. You can if you want. I'm just simply saying you can't be closed-minded to the future. It is what it is. It's either going to go, you're going to go with it, or it's going to leave you behind, and I don't want you to be left behind by far. Hey, listen, maybe you are considering coaching, and you're just you don't maybe you have you've been a CEO, maybe you own businesses, you just love making an impact, you see the purpose in helping people grow. You just don't have proper structure. You don't have the right tools. Love to share with you what we do. You can go to businesscoachmastery.com. That's businesscoachmastery.com. Some information there you can see about our done for you solutions. If you're interested in talking about it, we can schedule a chat with you and go from there. Okay? Until next time, take care.